Mr. Woodley?
Am I on?
You're on.
Go. Ready? Good evening, board. On the agenda next is 3 openings that we have beginning July 1 of 2019 for the Long Range Planning Committee. There is a memo. Did you get it to them?
Yes.
Okay. And there are 3 applications. There are 3 positions that are open. Position number 6, number 4, and number 2. Of the 3 applicants, 2 of them are incumbents. This would be a second term, and the other one has been on the committee, Doris Whaler, since 2001. And they did apply for the position back. We have a new applicant, Julie Miller. I believe she may be here. There's the wave for any of the 3 open positions. The applications are in the packet, I believe, for all 3. And at this point, it's open for discussion for the committee, or for the board to consider each of the 3 applicants.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'm going to just try something for brevity. Oh, you can choose not to second. I would move that we appoint Saminata to position 6, appoint Doris Whaler to number 4, and Julie Miller to position 2.
That's I second.
Discussion?
To suggest that we think about holding the application period open. We just got one of them today, and I'm sorry I haven't had time to look into the applicant's background, other than to note that we would have a majority from Wilsonville, and we only have 1 applicant per position. And I'm sure they'd all be good applicants. But I do know that neighborhood organizations in West Linn are interested, and those who I've spoken with were unaware of it. They said they hadn't been contacted. So I just wanted to throw out the possibility of maybe until June 30th when the terms of the incumbents expire.
Along those lines, I guess I have to express lack of knowledge about Mike Jones, Grady Nelson, Kim Jordan, and David Lake, whether they reside in Wilsonville.
So David Lake, West Linn, Grady Nelson, Wilsonville. What was the other one?
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones, West Linn.
And
But then you have
Kim
Julie Miller,
is here.
West Linn. Yeah,
West
Kim
Linn,
is
okay.
West Linn.
And I would just, along those lines, thank you, Director Reynolds.
I think it's a 4-3 kind of split between the 2 communities.
I have had the opportunity to have I think a long discussion with Julie Miller. I had noted that she was inquisitive, curious. She has a commitment to understanding how the district works, to being part of making changes that might be beneficial to the students in our district. I certainly don't have any hesitation today adopting the 3 applicants as to those positions.
I would add That it appears, as far as the West Linn-Wilsonville split, I mean, Doris and Sammy as a renewal, and then I do believe Mr. Wyatt lives in West Linn, and my assumption is that Ms. Miller lives in West Linn as well. So it would be kind of maintaining that as far as the balance. Having served on the Long Range Planning Committee as the liaison, I saw great commitment by both Sammy and Doris. I'm confident in renewing their terms. And I know Ms. Miller has been coming to board meetings and has been, expressing interest. And so having her serve in that capacity, I would be comfortable with. I'm fine with prolonging the application process if need be, but we don't have another board meeting scheduled. So it seems like this would be the time, unless we were going to convene for a special reason to do that.
My only suggestion would be in the future, perhaps more widely, so that the word gets out to the general community and not necessarily the school community. Again, it's the neighborhood associations are deeply invested in these types of issues, and they would appreciate having known about it.
I thought it might be helpful to find out. I think that Mr. Killstrom sent out more than one. Could you explain who those went to?
Through our district listserv, our district newsletter, as well as school newsletters and listservs primarily. Information was also on our website, and we did send it to both cities, asked them to spread it how they could. I don't know that how or when they did that. I don't know that it was sent to neighborhood associations. But we did do multiple outreach efforts. I think we reached people. But
Thank you for that information. Any other discussion?
I would be open to leaving it open longer, except that, I mean, we've got 3 highly qualified people, and so I would tend to move forward with the people that have the most interest and have already expressed a desire. And again, I'm not sure we're going to meet again before the terms are up, so I would prefer to take care of this tonight.
And I've been anxious to get this going because as we begin to discuss levy and bond, I want a full long-range planning committee meeting, and I'm not inclined to have any delay when we have 3.
I would just add, in terms of staff, we've been, I'd just echo what Director King Martin and Chair Fitch mentioned, that both Ms. Whaler and Mr. Nada have been incredibly engaged and active members, and our interaction with Ms. Miller, likewise, Chair Fitch, we had an opportunity to meet with her, and very engaged in the community, wants to serve, wants to learn, and is reaching out in a way to be a part of the work and a part of the community that, from what she expressed, she really appreciates as a parent and wants to be involved as a community member. So we're appreciative of our conversation and would certainly support her application.
Chelsea King Martin.
Aye.
Betty Reynolds.
Aye.
Ginger Fitch.
Aye.
Dylan Hides.
Aye.
Regan Molitor.
Yes.
Oh, this is Julie Miller in the back row.
So the next, oh, wow, guys. The next item on the agenda is the School Facilities Plan 2019, Part 2, Capital Improvement Program. There is a resolution with this, 2018-14. The plan is in front of you. It's the complete volume is in front of you. Part 2 has a tab if you'd like to go to it or have comments. It has been adjusted somewhat, primarily in the area of the capital projects and their description. The projects themselves remain the same with the same value amount. We have heard comments and responded to various board members and others, including long-range planning members, about some of the language and how we're presenting them within the document. The document is complete. Some portions are in draft, including Part 2, until a board would adopt it. It's an important action on the school board's part, as the long-range plan by itself, both Part 1 and Part 2, do become the district's long-term facility plan and is used in a variety of ways to empower the board and the school district forward on various capital type initiatives, aligning with state law. One thing in particular, and we'll probably get into it into the next discussion, is there's a grant that's been created through Oregon School Board Association around capital facilities and some grants that come with it. There's a timeline associated with that. It's called the AWESOME, which I like, grant. And for us to apply, we have to have an adopted long-range plan by July 1st. That's the first date where we would make an application to the state with a follow-up on the 15th where they actually assign or award money that might be coming our way. We'll talk about that a bit when we get into the capital improvement program itself. So this is a document that has been in the works for a year, probably. You did hear and approve Part 1 in January, I believe, of this year, leading up to the Bond Summit. And again, Part 2 for us is the CIP, Capital Improvement Program itself, and it does identify those projects that we're considering in a capital bond. I think they're well described, the pricing and how we came to the value of each of them, I think was described in a white paper a little earlier. We could review it if you'd like. It was a group that was fairly large, of very highly regarded professionals that helped with the pricing on these projects. The district has considered these, some of them, for many years, and are now included in the CIP by itself. The slide you see up here does have those project pages behind it if we want to go to them specifically, or you can begin your discussion now.
Thank you, Mr. Woodley. Any questions for Mr. Woodley at this time?
I was wondering if I should make a motion and then we can discuss.
Sure. Does anybody want to make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2018-14?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2018-14, the long-term facilities plan, Part 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
John.
Yes, Dr. Reynolds.
So I do have a question related to debt and bonding capacity, but I can wait until the next agenda item if you'd prefer.
I think that'd be more appropriate, Betty.
I also have a question. I'm not sure if it's better held. It seems to me that maybe it fits in this area, but I have wonderings about our older school buildings. Yes. And particularly as we anticipate the potential of constructing a new middle school, I'm very interested in ensuring that we maintain as much equity as we can across facilities. And I'm wondering what analysis we may have already conducted to compare our older buildings with other new construction or newer buildings, or what perhaps analysis we're prepared to do, particularly around middle schools. We anticipate building another middle school. So that's one wondering I'm having.
Hold just a moment. So in the capital improvement program, there is district-wide projects. For us, it's a traditional category that we've had for many, many cycles of the bond. And within that, there are, I don't know, 150 different projects that we identified at all schools and worked through with our engineers and our architect in terms of how to respond to it. Each school, unless it's named specifically, probably, in fact, I do know, has funding sourced through both the Safe and Welcoming schools, which would provide new entries to all schools, including Rosemont, Wood, Athey, of course, we have a different conversation about. Meridian Creek already has that. And then a variety of other projects, both life cycle replacement, asset type things, mechanical systems, boilers, that sort of thing, as well as architectural improvements. And it could include interior or exterior improvements. The reason I was holding is because I have a list here of those schools. The ones in play at the moment, Rosemont Ridge has $1.4 million in that kind of improvement for that particular school. Meridian Creek, a new school, of course, but still has some initiatives connected to it at about $65,000, which is probably appropriate for a brand new school. And Innswood Middle School in particular has $4.5 million to be invested into that school for a variety of upgrades to the school itself. Does that answer your question? I mean, we have the money for it. Certain projects are identified. The list is long, but within that then become the priorities for how, you know, what happens first, and then working with engineers, architects, school administrators, others to identify and prioritize those projects, turn them in, you know, work them into a design and then into construction projects. But would, as kind of the larger one here, I think would result in some significant publicly seen improvements.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and just the recognition of different investments,
Yes.
creating equitable outcomes. So
Right.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for the additional information that I think meets our statutory requirements as well. That was a concern of mine before, and I
Yes.
appreciate the work that you put into that.
Primarily for the capital improvement program, it had a lot to do with enrollment projections that take a 10-year view, and then what capital improvements are necessary to accommodate those projections over time as the district grows. We have, I think even in my memo, mentioned that there's been priority given to more shorter-term solutions that this capital bond would respond to. It's been traditionally and historically practiced in this district that every 5 to 7 years we have a capital bond. We've created financial strategy around being able to do that so that we have smaller ones instead of these really super large ones. And I lost my train of thought for a moment. Somebody remind me. I'm old. Right. So this capital bond program has those kind of early projects in it, but also we've taken a 10-year view, especially around enrollment growth. Meridian Creek is one. We have wonderings about middle school enrollment that may be growing over time. We've used the flow demographic numbers to consider what that might mean both in West Linn and Wilsonville. For middle school enrollment, the projection is with a new, somewhat larger middle school to be built in West Linn, it would accommodate that growth both now and at a 10-year view. In Wilsonville, we have recently built Meridian Creek Middle School. It was designed to increase its size. We created a footprint and a full design, in fact, even through permitting, for it to be built out into the future that will respond to especially the Frog Pond area. There's also some ability, we term them soft adjustments to boundaries, especially maybe the county in between, and how you can respond both north and south. And with a new middle school being more embedded into the city of West Linn, I think it helps with responding really well to the West Linn population. And then with the two down in Wilsonville, we certainly are able to respond to that. At the primary level, we know that our West Linn primaries are really in pretty good shape. Maybe there's a balance that we need to kind of adjust over time, but there is capacity in West Linn. Wilsonville is always the one that we wonder about a bit, and certainly, again, Frog Pond and Villaba are growing. The bond proposal right now is a starter primary school in the Frog Pond area on 10 acres the district owns. It would start out as a 350 student primary school, but in 5 years, possibly, it also could be built out to 550, which is what our traditional middle or primary school capacity is, and would help balance east side and west side. And again, sometimes some soft adjustments and boundaries help over time as kids move in and out of the schools. High school level is one that this bond is really focusing on. It's the beginning of our third larger high school, which is a milestone event for us. The long-range plan has considered that for many, many, many years. I think, this is my opinion, this is a pretty elegant way to do that. And to be able to balance enrollment at the high school level across the district by adding this third location in, again, my opinion, a superior location with the kind of academic programs that can draw to each of the three and provide time for it to grow and the other schools to respond in kind to that kind of academic programs that we're envisioning. So I believe, looking at it from a 10-year perspective, the long-range plan does consider it in a variety of places and ways, and in that is responsive, along with Part 1, to be responsive to that legislation that we're responding to.
And just to respond to some questions that the public may have, do you, when you look at these capital projects, are any of them nice versus necessary?
I think, in my opinion, they're all necessary at this time. I may not, some years ago, predicted this level of projects that are coming forward. There are several that have been on the books and in long-range plan for many years. Sunset was one of those that went through, I think, 3 different bond cycles before we were able to respond to it. Certainly, the auditorium at Wilsonville High School is one like that. Some work on the stadium to expand for student body is another one that has been on kind of a wish list for a very long time, and I think is really important at this time, especially as we've really worked hard on our district safety program and have considered and practiced things like reunification. We've had instance at West Linn High School recently where the stadium was the place for gathering, and the only place to gather is to stand. And that's really difficult when you're trying to address, organize, release, or bringing a student body together. And there's other, I mean, there's academic reasons why you'd want a student body together. But when it comes to safety, that's an important one, as well as just the congestion on any event. If we look at.
And is it, if I were, I recently was at the Westland Stadium and have spent a lot more time on the stands at the Wilsonville High School football games, and it appears to me that for a larger school, it has a lot less seating space.
It's significantly less. When you just look at, stadiums are counted by linear feet of bench. That's how it's counted. And Westland is significantly under the allocation per student than Wilsonville is at the same time.
And then in terms of the changes to the performing arts area at Wilsonville High School, the other part of that is to create instructional space because of the growing student body. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great benefits of the way we're approaching this. There'd be a new standalone theater, of course, but in doing that, it vacates a large amount of space within the existing high school that can be converted into CET spaces, or CTE, I'm sorry. I get the two confused. To create significant amount of additional classroom space, and it's in a superior location because it's embedded right in the school. So the advantage there is not only to improve access to the arts, the performing arts in particular, but also to bring more academic space, and especially that career technical educational space at Wilsonville High School that really, really needs it.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion before we vote?
I think I would just add briefly that all the work around the high school and reimagining the future possibilities of high school is really valuable here, just based off of the countless conversations I had talking with the community over the past couple months. There's a lot of interest in that. And so for me as a board member, when I look at this, that is of utmost value. And I'm just really looking forward to the work we're going to do around not just the magnet CTE high school potential, but the updated high school programming at all of our high schools.
Chelsea King Martin.
Aye.
Betty Reynolds.
Aye.
Ginger Fitch.
Aye.
Dylan Hides.
Aye.
Reagan Molitor.
Yes.
Also, just a beautiful document, very thorough. Thank you for it. You were very responsive to all the asks that came from the Long Range Planning Committee and from the board. Everyone was addressed right down to the T, so thank you for that. Top-notch work.
It was collaborative. Sorry? Oh. Jim Fitzpatrick here? Jim Fitzpatrick is a partner with IBI Group Architects. They've been with us in the district for many, many years and provided considerable work on the long-range plan. They were keeper of it as we made 1,000 changes and were able to keep up with it. So thank you, Jim, and your staff. Thank you. Next, in front of you, we have for a first reading, 2019 capital bond. It is have you passed it out? It is a sample draft resolution and a sample draft notice of measure election, typically known as the ballot title. The draft of the resolution itself is from Jim Shannon, bond counsel for the district, part of Mercer and Shannon fairly prescriptive in language. It does reference and recognize an attachment A, which is then that notice of measure election. It would be the one that gets submitted to the county election office. It has, within the ballot title, a caption, a question, and a summary. We have made an effort to both describe what the ballot measure would be and stay within the legal parameters of how you can do that. It's been a bit of a struggle. Jeremy Wright is in the audience with us tonight. Jeremy, thank you for coming. He's been instrumental in helping on this. Certainly Mercer and Shannon has been vocal. Andrew has helped a lot, as well as a variety of other people, Piper Jeffrey and others that have helped craft this language. Again, it's offered to the board as a first reading. We're not asking for action from the board, but it's certainly something that comes directly from the board, that goes to the elections office and then is moved out to our public at the time of an election. It's offered for your review and comment, which can be now or later, and then we'll have to schedule a time for a second reading.
The one question I had is I just wanted to make absolutely certain that you, Mr. Mercer, and Mr. Wright were confident that this language encapsulates all of the capital projects in our capital improvement plan.
I believe it does in the language that's used. I think you could go through our list of 7 and you could find them here fairly specifically. They are kind of under the heading of initiatives, but yet I think the project itself is described within the summary.
Okay. And Mr. Wright, Mr. Mercer concur with that assessment?
At their level, yes. It's only qualified because some of the legal language is very prescriptive to law and the election office of how you can say certain things that might not quite align with how you might want to campaign the same thing. But I have confidence that it is descriptive and correct per law.
Okay. Thank you.
You have X's on page 2 of Exhibit A for the amount the district would receive in state grants if the bonds were approved. Could you explain that?
Yes, I can. On July 1st, we will submit, we've been working on our application, an application to the state for qualification for grant funds, which are then awarded around the 15th. There's no order to the application on the 1st. You have to have an approved long-range plan that you would submit, and you have to have an approved district assessment, and that assessment has to be on the state form, and we're working on it now. And we actually have contact with the people within the facilities office to where they'll review it with us to know that it's compliant with everything we need. Then on July 15th, you submit those, and they're received and prioritized in the order that they receive them. And so our goal is to hit the button at 8 o'clock on the 15th and be in line for it. Those funds are, and I'm not going to get super specific, but within the law, there's a certain amount of money that's set aside for these grants to school districts that pass a capital improvement bond. You have to pass the bond before you can get the money. 60% of the money is to districts that are first in time for allocation based on their position in terms of need, maybe Title I or free and reduced, that sort of thing. We happen to align somewhere around 203 out of 215 districts. Actually, they changed it today and they bumped us further down the line. So maybe our chances that that might be slim. 40% of it, though, is allocated to other districts. And we would stand in line for somewhere around 7 million based on the number of school districts that might be going out for a bond right now. So there is a higher level of possibility for that one. Certainly worth our time to do it. The X's in there are because we don't know what that amount might be. This has to be submitted to the elections office sometimes in August, so there would be a little time to know what it is. OSBA does provide language for, if you don't know what it is, some range that you could put in, or if you do know, you can put in the exact dollar amount. And so the ballot title itself does hold a sentence for that because we want to be eligible, and it needs to be recognized in the ballot title so our voters know that if passed, we would be awarded that amount of money. And I believe they are able to tell you within a very short time after the 15th that you will be awarded that money. The state facilities office is fairly new, and they're really promoting this as a way for school districts to get some help from the state through this fund.
Well, I didn't see it in the actual proposed bond language. I did, like in the memo we received in advance at bullet point 3. More feedback with regards to that. We've kind of done some learning around terms of art and what we all know and discuss and what maybe may not be demonstrative of communicating to our community what they need to know. And one would be like, an example would be the health and wellness. We said health and wellness, and there was a portion of that we got feedback that people didn't understand what that meant. And I kind of felt like our language around this, we may want to put more thought if we continue to repeat it, and it's around the 88 million. But I just felt like that was expanding opportunities and addressing enrollment growth at secondary level, potentially in the future, a little bit more, at high school, middle school, something. As we're communicating.
So something that accompanies this is called the explanatory statement, and we haven't done that yet. It's something that a board certainly can interact with. Jeremy and Andrew will be working hard on that because it does accompany the submission to the elections office where we can expand more on that. And I would expect, and I think the district stands ready to help with any informational things, data, explaining things better or more during a campaign. I think that we're committed to helping with that, yes. As well as all the rest, so it's not ambiguous.
So I do have some questions related to debt and bonding capacity. The information we received from Piper Jaffray is that the amortization length for the bonds is 20 and 30 years. They're using 30 years. And so the question is, does that mean that we will be paying only interest and until the existing bonds that are not yet retired are paid? And I guess the bottom line is I'm interested in the outstanding debt of the district and taxpayers, and how much is it and for how long?
So Betty, in response to that, there's a few parts. One, I'll just start with saying, and this is out of experience, that at the time of the sale, which in this case, if a bond passed in November, a sale probably would occur in January or February, somewhere in there. And the landscape at that time is what predicts the payback schedule, the interest rate, all that sort of thing. They've modeled based on what they know at this point. They did mention that interest rates, in her words, are ridiculously low, which makes it a good time to do it right now, but they don't know exactly what they might be at that time. But set that aside for the moment, because the very specifics would happen then. But Piper Jaffray did provide, I'm not sure what they called it, it's a levy rate analysis, and for both a 20 and a 30-year payback schedule. And by the way, the board resolution is contemplating a 30-year, which seems to be the best for us at the moment. Within that report, I'm not sure if you have it or not. I have it in front of me. It's on page 25. But in that scenario, the very first year, which is 15, it would be interest only, but that's primarily because it doesn't hit the tax rolls that particular year. It moves a year before it hits the tax rolls. And then after that, every year there is payment on the principal. So it's not an interest only. There's payment every year on that principal. And then further, Brendan Watkins with Piper Jaffray made this statement. He said, currently, the next series of bonds to mature is the Series 2003A bonds, which have a final maturity of 6/15/23. That's when they would be paid. And if there's more detailed questions, it might be more of a direct question to Piper Jaffray themselves. But in general, that's the way it lines up at the moment.
That schedule you were reading from would be helpful. It sounds like an amortization schedule.
Yes,
So.
and it has a full amortization table with principal paid every year.
My understanding from conversations with Piper Jaffray were that the district could decide, depending on economics, later to shorten the 30-year to something else. Is that correct?
You may know that, but it's at the time of the sale that those kinds of decisions are made.
Okay.
The exact structure and maintain that $3 limit with a gap out about 5 years.
Great, thank you.
I have a wondering about the process. So we approved the long-range plan, the facilities plan, and we have before us the proposed language that's been vetted by experts. This is going to go on the November ballot, if everything goes as we predict. Having just ran a campaign, I get a little mindful of front-loading the time as far as possible. So I am curious about if this is just a first reading and we're not doing anything tonight, then what does that look like for our next step?
The thinking of presenting it as a first read is to get as many of your questions out that you have, like the ones that are being asked tonight. And as Mr. Woodley mentioned, we've got this grant that we can then write into the ballot language, but we won't know if we have that grant until the end of July. So we could make this the first order of business in our first board meeting right away, early August, with that amount written into the ballot title, which could strengthen that out to the public in terms of we've also been approved a grant for this capital bond. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't be working on a number of things in the meantime, which is providing all sorts of informational documents that we could begin writing and working on, and then be able to get out as soon as we have board adoption. Roll that out right away in August. We could be spending the summer working. Already Mr. Wright is working on some website design, some marketing language around information about capital bond, local option. So those things could be drafted and being worked on.
So I like asking stupid questions sometimes because I'm modeling learning. When we approved this long-range plan, did we, in essence, approve going out for the bond? And this is just a formality now with the ballot language? Or is there another step that occurs?
No, but it is a specific step. What you did in a long-range plan was fairly well define what the projects would be, which kind of takes that away, and they can be within the ballot language and the draft that we have provided. There is time to do it. This is new, this ability to get this money that we've never had before. And again, if we did it sooner, we have to use a range. And I mean, a board could be comfortable with that if you wanted to.
I don't think that was quite the question.
I think it's a board decision.
You've gone through
Kelsey,
this
so
once
you're
before,
totally,
haven't you?
I think I understand what you're asking, because at this point, I mean, nobody's sending this language necessarily back or disagreeing with the content. So we would potentially, in a different year, when there wasn't this potential for grant money, tonight would be the night. We would go ahead and approve this ballot language. However, we're going to essentially choosing to take a little additional time so we can get that grant information that we can specifically plug in. But it doesn't mean we can't continue to work towards a bond campaign.
I
in the
understand all
absence.
that. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I guess I was just wondering if there's another vote that we take to approve going out for the bond and local option levy. I mean, we just approved the long-range plan. That was essentially saying that we are going to fund those projects. And now the next step, perhaps in August, is to just approve the language. Yeah, okay.
So it's my understanding that one of the reasons for approving the project list and part 2 of the plan is that that is one of the awesome criteria.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at their funding formula right now, and part of it is based on the 2017-18 assessed valuation. And as you indicated, we're eligible for $7,192,506 as a maximum potential grant. It's my understanding that tax collections were less than anticipated, and to be safe, should we be looking at a more current assessed valuation than 2017-18? I think we have more current information on collections than that.
I guess a bit technical for me, Betty, but I do believe that Piper Jaffray does recognize a certain level of uncollectible almost always, and they have considered that into the formulas that they have used.
And I think
And the recent assessment, the assessed value within the district, I think is the number that they would use either now or in a month. And I would point out, while it seems a ways out, this is June 10th, July 15th is like a month. It's not that far away at this point.
I was going to point out, I thought this was interesting. Along with Chair Fitch, I had a chance to meet with Piper Jaffray. And one of the questions we talked about was, why now? Why not do this in 2 years? you know, because obviously one of our obligations is what's our fiduciary responsibility to the community. And they laid out basically 5 reasons why it makes a whole lot more sense now as opposed to 2 years. Because in 2 years, we will have more bond capacity. It might be easier to do it. And the reasons they gave were, 1, there's possibly matching grants available this time. There's no guarantee we'll be around in 2 years. Secondly, there's cap space for 2019 to 2021 that we could fill now that we couldn't if we waited 2 years. Secondly, we get to capture the low interest rates that are right now. They probably won't get much lower, according to Piper Jaffray, but they could go a lot higher. Third is, right now we're in a climate where it appears more likely than not that the voters would approve this. No guarantee, but it looks optimistic, whereas in 2 years you have no idea what the voter climate's going to be. And then lastly, as Tim pointed out, construction costs are rising 6 to 7% every year. So when we put off obtaining these monies and building buildings, you know, add 15% for every 2 years to that. So that's why doing so is right now. Anyways, that was informative to me. I thought that I would share that with the rest of the board.
And I would add that the projects are important, especially when it comes to creating new classroom space. And it takes 2 to 3 years to do that, even after you get the money. We don't just immediately produce new classrooms. It takes time for permitting, design, contracting, that sort of thing. And in 3 years, we will be pressed for needing that classroom space.
And not to mention the importance, I mean, we've been very focused on the bond, and rightfully so. These are really amazing projects that we're going to do. And there's this local option levy, which puts 80 more staff into our schools. And that is, to me, equally as exciting as keeping all those people inside of our beautiful schools.
Yeah.
That segue. Levy.
Kathy, you want me to help you? Yeah. All right. We're here. So the next item in front of the board is the local option. This is one that our district has been fortunate for many years. I think it's the 5th renewal. It came in 2000. It requires renewal every 5 years. And in front of you tonight is resolution 2018-15 that would authorize that election. Again, the resolution itself comes directly from Mercer Owen Shannon, our legal counsel. It reflects a lot of the language that has been used in past years and updated for current law. There is a notice of measure election, similar to the capital bond. It's a little more straightforward. Andrew helped write this one, as well as Jeremy. We checked the numbers. Sun Lee did a lot of work with the local Clackamas County tax office to come up with the numbers in projection that it would produce over the years. I think the primary takeaway on this one is that it would preserve over 80 classroom teachers, counselors, and support staff. It would maintain class size and protect class sizes supported by the current levy, and helps local schools by supplementing state funding. I think the rest is fairly clear. It's $1.50 per thousand, which is the same that we've had every time it's been renewed. And in this particular case, you'll know that the ballot title caption itself and the rest of the language clearly states that it's a renewal of a 5-year local option tax.